The massive space station looked like a giant metal flower floating in the darkness. Its silver petals stretched out from a central core that glowed with blue light. Ambassador Tae-min Park pressed his face against the window of his ship as they approached the council station. After 300 years of dreaming, humanity was finally here. "Sir, we're getting the docking instructions now," said Dr. Hana Kim, his chief of staff. She was young but smart, chosen for this mission because she spoke 4 alien languages. Her hands shook slightly as she read the message on her tablet. "Are you nervous?" asked General Woo Jin Lee. The old soldier had fought in the Mars Wars 20 years ago. Nothing seemed to scare him, but even he looked tense today. "We all are," Tae-min replied. "This is the biggest day in human history." Dr. Sora Choi, their alien expert, looked up from her research notes. "Remember, the Vorthak don't shake hands. They touch crystals instead. The Netheri communicate through color changes in their gas clouds. And whatever you do, don't look directly at a Zephyrian's egg sac." Their ship, the New Soul, docked with a soft bump. The airlock hissed open, and they stepped into a corridor that hurt their eyes with bright lights. Strange smells filled the air, something like flowers mixed with metal and electricity. 2 alien guards waited for them. The first was tall and made of what looked like living crystal. Light bounced off its body in rainbow patterns. The second was harder to see, a cloud of green gas that shifted and moved inside a glass suit. "Humans," the crystal being said in perfect English, though its voice sounded like wind chimes. "I am Guide Velnash of the Vorthak. This is Flowkeeper Nethys of the Netheri. Follow." They walked through halls filled with creatures Tae-min had only seen in pictures. A group of insect-like beings with 6 arms typed on floating computers. Something that looked like a walking tree discussed trade routes with a being made of pure energy. This was the heart of galactic civilization. The council chamber was enormous. 12 platforms floated in a circle around a central stage. Each platform held representatives of the major galactic species. The air hummed with translation devices turning dozens of languages into words they could understand. "Humans of the Sol system," announced Council Speaker Veltar, a massive Vorthak whose crystal body pulsed with authority. "You have requested membership in the Galactic Council. State your case." Tae-min stepped forward. He had practiced this speech 1,000 times. "Honored council members, humanity comes before you in peace and friendship. We have achieved faster than light travel, unified our home planet, and established colonies on 12 worlds. We have developed advanced artificial intelligence, terraforming technology, and clean energy systems. We seek to share our knowledge and learn from the wisdom of the galaxy's elder races." He gestured to Hana, who activated a holographic display. Images of Earth appeared. Gleaming cities, green forests, blue oceans. Then came pictures of human achievements. The first Mars colony, the Jupiter mining stations, the breakthrough that led to FTL travel. In just 300 years, we have gone from primitive farmers to space travelers, Tae-min continued. We believe we can contribute to galactic peace and prosperity. The council members whispered among themselves in languages that sounded like music, static, and grinding stones. Finally, high-voiced Crix of the Zephyrians spoke. The insect being's voice was sharp and clicking. 300 years, Crix said with obvious disgust. The Zephyrians took 50,000 years to achieve what you claim to have done in 3 centuries. This is impossible through natural evolution. Flowsinger Ethon, a Netheri whose gas form turned angry red, added, "Your rapid advancement suggests artificial enhancement or theft of technology. No species develops this quickly without outside help." "Perhaps," suggested Veltar, "the humans are simply lying about their capabilities." General Lee stepped forward, his face red with anger, but Tae-min held up a hand to stop him. "Honored Speaker, everything we have shown you can be verified. Our achievements are real, earned through hard work, creativity, and cooperation." "Cooperation," sneered a reptilian being from the Saurian Empire. "How primitive. Advanced species understand that strength comes from hierarchy and order, not from the chaos of democracy." Dr. Choi activated another display, showing human scientific breakthroughs, artistic achievements, and peaceful relations with the few alien species they had already met. "Our diversity makes us stronger," she said. "We solve problems by working together, not by following rigid rules." The council erupted in harsh laughter and dismissive sounds. Veltar raised a crystal hand for silence. "The evidence is clear. Humanity achieved too much too quickly. This suggests either deception or dangerous instability. A species that changes so rapidly cannot be trusted with galactic responsibilities. Furthermore," added Crix, "your democratic systems create chaos. You have no proper chain of command, no respect for natural hierarchy. You are biological primitives pretending to be civilized." Taemin felt his heart sink, but he tried one more time. "We understand your concerns, but we ask you to judge us by our actions, not our age. We have never started a war with another species. We help those in need. We protect the weak and share our knowledge freely." "Which proves our point," Veltar said coldly. "Sharing knowledge freely shows you don't understand its value. Helping the weak disrupts natural selection. Your so-called virtues are actually signs of evolutionary immaturity." The vote was swift and unanimous. 12 species, 12 rejections. "The Galactic Council hereby denies membership to the human species," Veltar announced. "Furthermore, humans are prohibited from establishing colonies beyond a 50 light-year radius of their home system. Human ships are banned from Council space. Trade with human entities is forbidden to all Council members and client species." The crystal being's next words hit like physical blows. "A quarantine fleet will be established to ensure these restrictions are followed. Humans will remain in their assigned space until they prove worthy of galactic citizenship, if such a day ever comes." Taemin stood in stunned silence for a moment. Then he straightened his shoulders and looked directly at each council member. "You mistake our youth for weakness and our cooperation for chaos. You fear what you don't understand, but history will remember this day differently than you imagine." "Guards, escort the humans to their ship," Veltar commanded. As they walked back through the station, Hana whispered, "What do we do now?" "Now," Taemin said quietly, "we prove them wrong." The new soul undocked and headed home, carrying the news that would change everything. Behind them, the council station continued its ancient routines, unaware that they had just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. President Kyung-Soo Han stared at the report spread across his desk. 6 months had passed since the council's rejection, and the situation was getting worse every day. Alien ships now patrolled the edges of human space, turning back any vessel that tried to leave the 50 light-year zone. "They're not just watching us," said Chief Admiral Yoon Ji-song, pointing to the star maps on the wall. "They're actively blocking us. My scouts report Vorthak cruisers at every major jump point. The Zephyrians have mining stations on asteroids that never had mining operations before. They're building a cage around us." The emergency meeting included the most important leaders on Earth and the colonies. Dr. Hana Kim, recently promoted to Secretary of Alien Affairs, sat next to General Woo Jin Lee. Across from them, Dr. Jin Ho Yoon from the Stellar Cartography Institute looked excited despite the grim situation.
"Show them what you found," President Han told Dr. Yoon. The scientist activated a holographic display that filled the room with stars. 3 weeks ago, we finished analyzing the data from the Martian ruins. The artifacts we found aren't just
Ancient art. They're star charts, maps of the galaxy from 50,000 years ago. The display zoomed out, showing the spiral arms of their galaxy. Huge sections glowed red, council space. But beyond those areas, vast regions remained dark. "The council has been hiding something," Dr. Yoon continued. "These maps show whole sectors that don't appear in any modern star charts. Regions with thousands of star systems that the council claims are empty space or dangerous nebulae." Director Mi Young Jang from Colonial Development leaned forward. "Are you saying there are habitable worlds out there?" "Not just habitable," Dr. Yoon replied, barely containing his excitement. "According to these maps, some of these regions have planet densities twice as high as council space, garden worlds, mineral-rich systems, everything we need to build a civilization." "But why would the council hide this?" asked Admiral Song. Dr. Jin Ho switched the display to show Council territory in detail. Look at the pattern. The Council controls the oldest, most established regions of the galaxy. These hidden sectors are newer, with younger stars and less developed systems. The Council probably decided long ago that they didn't need them, so they classified the information and forgot about it. General Lee studied the maps with a soldier's eye. How far would we have to travel to reach these areas? The closest is 15,000 light-years away, in what we're calling the Andromeda Spiral Arm. With our current FTL drives, that's a 6-month journey, but once we get there, Dr. Yoon smiled, we could establish 50 colonies within 5 years. President Han was quiet for a long moment. You're talking about abandoning everything we've built here. Not abandoning, said Director Zhang. Expanding. We keep our core systems here and build new ones beyond Council reach. They want to cage us? Fine. We'll find a bigger cage. Dr. Sung-Ho Kang, head of the Advanced Research Division, had been silent until now. The brilliant scientist looked tired but determined. There's something else. Before the Council banned us, we managed to scan several of their ships. My team has been working around the clock to understand their technology. He activated his own display, showing technical schematics. Their FTL drives are powerful but inefficient. They rely on massive energy cores and complex calculations. Our approach is different, more flexible, easier to modify. Dr. Eugene Lim, one of Kang's top researchers, added, we've developed improvements that could make our ships 30% faster than Council vessels. And that's just the beginning. What about supplies? Admiral Song asked. Moving 1 million people 15,000 light-years isn't like a weekend trip to Mars. Director, Zhang had clearly been thinking about this. We build the colony ships here, in the asteroid belt where the Council scanners can't see them clearly. Each ship carries everything needed to establish a self-sufficient colony. Terraforming equipment, industrial fabricators, genetic samples, the works. The terraforming technology is key, added Dr. Hyun Park, who had joined her father's diplomatic mission and was now Earth's top terraforming expert. We can turn a dead rock into a garden world in 18 months. The Council species take centuries to do the same thing. President Han looked around the room. You're asking me to approve the largest human migration in history based on 50,000-year-old alien maps. I'm asking you to approve humanity's survival, Dr. Yoon replied quietly. The Council isn't going to change their minds. They've classified us as a threat that needs to be contained. We can sit here and slowly suffocate, or we can take our destiny into our own hands. The debate continued for hours. They discussed risks, resources, and the massive logistics of moving so many people. Some argued for trying diplomacy again. Others wanted to fight the blockade directly. Finally, President Han called for a vote. All in favor of Operation Exodus? One by one, hands rose around the table. The vote was unanimous. Then it's decided, Han said. Dr. Yoon, I want detailed surveys of the target regions. Director Zhang, start designing the colony ships. Dr. Kang, continue improving our technology. Admiral Song, you'll command the first fleet. Over the following months, humanity worked in secret. Shipyards in the asteroid belt hummed with activity. The outer colonies became staging areas for the greatest journey in human history. The first Exodus fleet consisted of 12 massive ships, each carrying 10,000 colonists and supplies for a decade. Admiral Dong-Hyun Choi, a veteran of the Mars colonies, commanded the fleet from his flagship, the Sol Star. On the day of launch, President Han addressed the departing colonists via video link. You carry with you the hopes and dreams of our entire species. The Council rejected us because they fear change. Show them that change is not something to fear, it's something to embrace. Dr. Hana Kim, now serving as the Exodus Program Coordinator, watched the ships disappear into FTL space. Each vessel carried not just people and supplies, but humanity's refusal to accept limits imposed by others. The journey to the Andromeda Spiral Arm would take 6 months. But as the first colony ships entered hyperspace, everyone involved knew they were doing more than traveling to new worlds. They were taking the first step toward proving the Council wrong. The aliens had dismissed humanity as too young, too chaotic, too dangerous. Now they would learn what young, chaotic, and dangerous could accomplish when given enough room to grow. In the depths of space, 12 ships carried humanity's future toward stars that had never known intelligent life. Behind them, Earth continued, its preparations for the next wave of colonists. The exodus had begun. 3 years had passed since the first Exodus fleet disappeared into the unknown regions of space. Admiral Dong-Hyun Choi stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking out at something the Council had claimed was impossible: a thriving human colony 15,000 light-years from Earth. New Busan spread across the valleys below like a green jewel. What had been a dead rock when they arrived was now covered in forests, lakes, and gleaming cities. Dr. Ha-Yun Park's terraforming technology had worked better than anyone hoped. The planet's atmosphere was breathable, its soil rich, and its weather patterns stable. "Admiral," reported his communications officer, Lieutenant Min Ho-jung, "we're getting the monthly report from the other colonies. New Seoul is ahead of schedule on their industrial complex. New Incheon just discovered massive rare metal deposits. And New Daegu reports first contact with a local species, peaceful traders called the Kalani." Admiral Choi smiled. 27 worlds now flew human flags. Each colony was unique, adapted to its planet's conditions, but all were growing faster than anyone had predicted. The secret was cooperation. Colonists from different Earth nations working together, sharing knowledge and resources freely. "Sir," Lieutenant Jung said, his voice suddenly tense, "we're getting an emergency signal from New Busan. They're under attack." The main screen lit up with images that made everyone on the bridge curse. Dozens of alien ships were bombarding the colony. From orbit, the vessels were sleek and insect-like, with multiple weapon pods that glowed red as they fired. Krillians, Admiral Choi identified grimly. "A Council client species. How did they find us?" On the planet below, Colony Administrator Seok Jin Ryu was coordinating the defense from his command bunker. The young administrator had been a city planner on Earth, but the colonies had taught everyone to be flexible. Now he was directing military operations with the skill of a veteran general. "Marine Commander Kim, what's your status?" He called over the communication system. Marine Commander Young-soo Kim's voice crackled through the speakers. "Sir, we've got 3,000 Krillian soldiers landing in the eastern sector. They're using some kind of energy weapons that cut through our standard armor like paper." The situation looked hopeless. The Krillians had more ships, more soldiers, and weapons designed for war. The human colonists were farmers, scientists, and engineers who had never expected to fight a battle. But they had something the Krillians didn't expect. "Commander Kim," Seok-jin said calmly, "implement Protocol 7. Protocol 7 was something Dr. Sung Ho Kang's research team had developed during the journey from Earth. Every human device, from farming equipment to personal computers, was connected through quantum communication networks. In an emergency, they could all work together as one giant system. Lieutenant Colonel Hee-jin Baek, leading the defense of the eastern sector, watched her tactical display update in real time. Every human soldier, vehicle, and weapon was now part of a single coordinated network. The AI systems that normally managed farming and manufacturing were now calculating battlefield tactics. "All units," she broadcast, "the network is live. Let's show these bugs what cooperation looks like." The Krillian assault force expected to fight individual human soldiers. Instead, they found themselves facing an enemy that moved like a single organism. Human troops appeared exactly where they were needed. Their weapons adjusted automatically for maximum effectiveness against Krillian armor, and their vehicles coordinated attacks with mathematical precision. When a group of Krillian soldiers tried to flank the human positions, the colony's construction robots appeared behind them, their industrial tools converted into weapons. When Krillian aircraft attacked human positions, the planet's weather control satellites suddenly created localized storms that disrupted their targeting systems. Captain Jae-sung Park, son of the famous ambassador, commanded a squad of defenders near the colony's main power plant. His soldiers wore adaptive combat suits that learned from each enemy attack. After the first Krillian energy weapon blast, the suit's armor adjusted to reflect that specific frequency. After the second, they began absorbing the energy and channeling it to power their own weapons. "These humans," clicked Krillian war leader, Scrix to his second-in-command, "they fight like no species we have encountered. Their technology adapts during battle." "Perhaps we should withdraw," suggested the second-in-command nervously. "Never," Scrix snarled. "The Council gave us clear orders. These humans must be destroyed before they spread further." But the Krillian forces were already in retreat. Their rigid military doctrine had no answer for an enemy that changed tactics every few minutes. Worse, the humans were capturing Krillian equipment and somehow using it against them within hours of studying it. Dr. Junseo Nam, the colony's chief scientist, had set up a research station in an abandoned warehouse. As human soldiers brought and captured Krillian weapons and equipment, his team reverse-engineered them with stunning speed. "The energy frequency is similar to our plasma cutters," he explained to Commander Kim over the radio. "I can modify our industrial equipment to generate the same frequency. Give me 2 hours and every construction tool on the planet can punch through Krillian armor." The battle's turning point came when the human defenders stopped simply fighting back and started fighting smart. Using captured Krillian communication codes, they fed false information to the enemy fleet. Krillian ships began firing on their own ground forces by mistake. Meanwhile, the colony's manufacturing plants, normally used for building farming equipment and houses, began producing weapons and vehicles specifically designed to counter Krillian technology. The production lines, controlled by AI systems that learned from every engagement, created new designs faster than the Krillians could adapt to them. "War leader," reported a Krillian communications officer, "we have lost 60% of our ground forces. The orbital bombardment is having minimal effect. The humans have energy shields we cannot penetrate." Scrix looked at his tactical display in disbelief. What should have been a simple extermination mission had become a disaster. The humans were not just defending themselves, they were winning. The final blow came when Captain Park's forces captured an intact Krillian dropship. Within 3 hours, Dr. Nam's team had figured out how to fly it. The captured ship, now controlled by human pilots and AI systems, attacked the Krillian fleet from behind. "This is impossible," Scrix muttered as his flagship's shields failed, under human attack. No species learns this quickly. The surviving Krillian ships fled into hyperspace, carrying news that would shock the Council. The primitive humans had not just survived an attack by a superior force, they had won decisively. Admiral Choi arrived with reinforcements to find New Busan celebrating victory. The colonists had suffered losses, but they had proven something important: humanity could defend itself. More importantly, they had captured enough Krillian technology to significantly advance their own capabilities. Dr. Nam's teams were already studying the alien ship's propulsion systems, weapons, and communication equipment. "Send a message to Earth," Admiral Choi ordered. "Tell them the colonies are secure and we've made first contact with hostile forces. Also tell them we're going to need more people, lots more people." As news of the victory spread through human space, more colony ships prepared for the journey to the Andromeda Spiral Arm. The Council had intended to isolate humanity, but they had only given them room to grow, and humanity was growing stronger with each passing day. Ambassador Min Seo-cha adjusted her translator and checked her notes one final time. 5 years had passed since the first human colonies were established, and today she would attempt something that had never been done before: create an alliance between equals in a galaxy ruled by hierarchy. The meeting was taking place on Valdor Prime, homeworld of the Valdorian Republic. The Valdorians were mammalian beings who looked somewhat like Earth's wolves, but they walked upright and had developed advanced technology. More importantly, they had been fighting the Council's expansion for over 1,000 years. "Ambassador, Cha," said Prime Minister Keldor Vashti, his lupine features showing polite skepticism, "your reputation precedes you. The human who convinced the Kalani traders to share their hyperspace routes, who negotiated peace between the Thorian miners and the Nexari refugees. But what you propose today seems impossible." The conference room held representatives from 17 different species, all refugees or rebels who had fled Council space. Some had been forced from their homeworlds by Council development projects. Others were former slave species who had escaped their masters. A few were simply traders and explorers who preferred freedom to the Council's rigid order. Prime Minister, Minseo replied calmly, 6 years ago the Council told humanity that cooperation was primitive and democracy was chaos. Today we have 78 thriving worlds that prove them wrong. What we offer is simple, an alliance where every species is equal, where knowledge is shared freely, and where no one rules over anyone else. A being made of crystalline structures, representing the free Vorthak who had split from the Council, spoke in a voice like breaking glass. Humans promise equality, but how do we know you won't become conquerors like the Council once you grow strong enough? Before Minseo could answer, Dr. Sujin Kwon, head of xenological studies, activated a holographic display. The images showed human colonies where different species lived and worked together. Kilani traders operated freely in human space. Thorian miners shared their advanced drilling technology in exchange for human agricultural techniques. Even former Krillian prisoners had been offered citizenship and jobs. Actions speak louder than words, Dr. Kwon said simply. Judge us by what we do, not what we promise. The debate continued for hours. Some species worried about human expansion. Others feared Council retaliation. A few wondered if cooperation between so many different cultures was even possible. Then, the alarms started blaring. Council ships, announced Prime Minister Vashti grimly. A enforcement fleet just dropped out of hyperspace. They're demanding we surrender all humans for processing. Through the conference room's windows, they could see bright flashes in the sky as the battle began. The Valdorian defense fleet was fighting bravely, but they were outnumbered 3-1 by Council forces. This is Admiral Tae-hyung No of the 3rd Human Fleet, came a voice over the communication system. Valdor Prime, we're here to help. The conference attendees rushed to the windows as human ships appeared in formation with the Valdorian defenders. The human vessels looked different from traditional warships, sleeker, more flexible, and they moved in coordinated patterns that seemed almost like a dance. Admiral No had been preparing for this moment since the Krillian attack 3 years ago. His ships incorporated technology from dozens of species, but they were organized around human principles of cooperation and adaptation. All ships, he broadcast to the combined human Valdorian fleet, implement Formation 7. Let's show the Council what happens when free peoples fight together. The human ships moved to support the Valdorian defenders, their weapons automatically adjusting to complement their allies' fighting styles. When a Valdorian cruiser's shields failed, 2 human destroyers immediately moved to protect it. When human fighters ran low on ammunition, Valdorian supply ships shared their weapons. In the conference room, the alien representatives watched, in amazement as the combined fleet began pushing back the Council forces. Impossible, whispered Unit Prime Zek 7, a mechanical being from the Nexari. The humans arrived with fewer ships, but they fight as if they share a single mind. That's exactly what they do, explained Dr. Kwon. Human military doctrine is based on network coordination. Every ship, every pilot, every weapon system shares information instantly. They adapt to any situation. The battle's turning point came when the Council forces tried their traditional tactic, concentrated firepower to break enemy morale. Instead of scattering, the human Valdorian fleet regrouped and counterattacked simultaneously from 6 different directions. Council Admiral Morthek, commanding the Zephyrian enforcement fleet, watched his tactical display with growing confusion. How are they coordinating so precisely? Our jammers should have disrupted their communications. His tactical officer, a young Vorthak named Velnoth, studied the sensor readings. Sir, I don't think they're using traditional communications. The pattern suggests quantum-entangled coordination systems. That's impossible. Quantum coordination requires technology beyond most species. Apparently not beyond the humans, sir. The Council fleet began a fighting retreat, but even that proved difficult. The human ships seemed to predict their movements, always appearing where they were least expected. Worse, the Valdorian forces were fighting with renewed determination, inspired by their allies' arrival. Council Fleet, Admiral No broadcast on all frequencies. This is your only warning. Leave this system immediately or face the consequences. Admiral Morthek's response was to order a final assault on Valdor Prime's capital city. But as his ships moved to bombard the planet, they found themselves surrounded by a defensive screen that included not just human and Valdorian vessels, but ships from half a dozen other species. Where did those ships come from? Morthek demanded. Sir, his sensor officer reported nervously. They're traders, mining vessels, even passenger ships that have been converted to carry weapons. It appears the entire sector is rising against us. The Council fleet retreated, but the damage to their reputation was immense. For the first time in galactic history, a Council enforcement action had been completely repelled by what they dismissed as primitive species. Back in the conference room, the atmosphere had completely changed. The representatives who had been skeptical about human intentions now looked at Minseo with something approaching awe. How did you coordinate that defense so quickly? Asked Prime Minister Vashti. We didn't, Minseo replied with a smile. Admiral No's fleet was already on patrol in this sector. When we heard about this conference, we thought it might be a target for Council interference, but the other ships, they came on their own. Unit Prime Zek-7 processed this information with electronic clicks. The traders and miners came to fight because they chose to, not because they were ordered. That's what free peoples do, Dr. Kwan explained. They help each other because they want to, not because they have to. The formal signing of the Alliance Charter took place 3 days later. 43 species agreed to a simple set of principles: voluntary cooperation, shared knowledge, mutual defense, and respect for each member's independence. President Kyung-Soo Han, attending via holographic link from Earth, addressed the gathered representatives. Today we prove that strength comes not from domination, but from cooperation. Not from fear, but from hope. The Council rules through force. We will succeed through friendship. The signing ceremony was simple but powerful. Each species representative placed their mark on the charter in their own way, some with traditional writing, others with genetic patterns, a few with energy signatures. As the ceremony concluded, reports arrived of similar declarations throughout the galaxy. Dozens of Council client species were declaring independence and requesting Alliance membership. The Nexari colonies had begun a full revolt against their Vorthak masters. Even some Council species were sending secret messages expressing interest in Alliance ideals. This is just the beginning, Minseo told the assembled diplomats. The Council has ruled for 10,000 years by keeping everyone separate and weak. But once people see they have a choice, oppression becomes impossible. Dr. Kwan activated a new holographic display showing the galaxy's political map. Alliance. Worlds glowed green, Council space remained red, but vast areas were now flashing yellow. Contested regions where the old order was breaking down. Within a year, she predicted, half the galaxy will be free. The Council knows this, which means they'll try to destroy us before we can grow stronger. Prime Minister Vashti nodded grimly. Then we must be ready for war. Not just ready, Minseo corrected. We must be united. The Council's strength has always been that they could defeat any single species. But they've never faced an entire galaxy working together. The Alliance representatives dispersed to their homeworlds, carrying news that would change everything. For the first time in galactic history, there was an alternative to Council rule. Species that had suffered under oppression for millennia now saw hope for freedom. The Council would not let this challenge go unanswered. But the Alliance was no longer just an idea. It was a reality, growing stronger with each passing day. Council Speaker Veltar's crystal form pulsed with anger as he read the latest intelligence reports. In just 2 years since the Alliance formed, 67 Council client species had declared independence. 3 Council member species were experiencing massive civil unrest. The Nexari slave revolt had spread to 40 systems, and worse still, some Vorthak colonies were actually helping their former slaves escape. This situation has gone beyond acceptable limits, Veltar announced to the Emergency Council session. The human infection must be eliminated before it spreads further. The council chamber, which had been a place of quiet dignity for 10,000 years, now buzzed with fear and anger. Representatives of the 12 ruling species argued over how to respond to the greatest threat they had ever faced. High-voiced cricks of the Zephyrians clicked his mandibles aggressively. My intelligence forces report that 53% of our client species are now secretly communicating with Alliance representatives. The humans offer them equality and shared technology. How do we compete with such promises? We don't compete, snarled War Commander Thax of the Saurian Empire. We eliminate the source of the infection. Destroy the human homeworld and their colonies. Without leadership, the Alliance will collapse. Flowsinger Ethon's gas form turned dark red with emotion. The humans have established over 200 colonies beyond our space. Their technology advances daily. Every month we delay makes them stronger. The debate raged for hours until Veltar called for order. Grand Admiral Mordeth will present the military assessment. Grand Admiral Mordeth of the Zephyrians was the Council's most experienced military commander. His forces had crushed dozens of rebellions over the centuries. But as he looked at the strategic displays, even he appeared concerned. Honored Council, Mordeth began. Operation Cleansing Wind has been prepared. We can mobilize 3,000 warships representing all 12 Council species. This is the largest military force in galactic history. The displays showed the massive fleet assembling at staging points throughout Council space. Vorthak crystalline, dreadnoughts, Zephyrian swarm carriers, Netheri energy projectors, and ships from 9 other species, all converging for one purpose: the complete destruction of humanity and its allies. However, Mordeth continued, I must report several concerning developments. Human military technology has advanced significantly since our last encounters. Their ships demonstrate capabilities we don't fully understand. Explain, demanded Veltar. Their vessels appear to share information instantaneously across vast distances. They coordinate attacks with perfect timing. Most disturbing, they adapt their tactics during battle faster than our commanders can counter them. War Commander Thax dismissed this with a wave of his clawed hand. Tricks and illusions. Numbers and firepower will overwhelm any technological advantage. Perhaps, Mordeth replied carefully, but we should not underestimate an enemy that has never lost a significant engagement. 3 weeks later, the Council's Grand Fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the new Terra system. The planet was humanity's largest colony, home to 50 million people and the Alliance's main shipyards. Fleet Admiral Sung-Min Lee stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Earth's Pride, watching the enemy fleet approach. He had been preparing for this moment since the Alliance was formed. The Council wanted a decisive battle, and he was ready to give them one. Admiral, reported his tactical officer, Commander Yeri Park, enemy fleet composition is 3,000 ships. We're detecting Vorthak dreadnoughts, Zephyrian carriers, and heavy units from all Council species. And our forces? 800 ships, sir. But every vessel is equipped with the new adaptive systems. Admiral Lee nodded. Project Titan had been humanity's secret weapon, a complete redesign of their military doctrine based on lessons learned from 5 years of conflict. The new ships looked smaller than traditional warships, but appearances were deceiving. Admiral Haiwan Shin reports ready from the orbital defense platforms, Commander Park continued. Colonel Junho Park's ground forces are in position. All civilian populations have been evacuated to the underground cities. As the Council fleet approached, Grand Admiral Mordeth felt confident. His ships outnumbered the defenders nearly 4-1. The human vessels looked tiny compared to his massive dreadnoughts. All ships, he broadcast, commence the attack. Destroy every human vessel and bombard the planet until nothing remains. The battle began with the Council fleet's traditional tactic: overwhelming firepower designed to break enemy morale quickly. Thousands of energy beams and missile salvos streaked toward the human defenders. But something unexpected happened. The human ships didn't scatter or retreat. Instead, they moved in perfect coordination, their defensive systems working together to create overlapping energy shields that deflected most of the incoming fire. Impossible, muttered Mordeth's tactical officer. Our sensors show they're using some kind of network defense system. Each ship's shields are connected to every other ship. Worse was coming. As the Council ships closed for the kill, the human vessels began their counterattack. But instead of fighting like traditional warships, they fought like a single massive organism. Admiral Lee's ships moved in patterns that seemed to flow like water around the enemy formations. When Council forces concentrated their fire on one area, the human ships simply flowed away from the attack and struck from unexpected directions. All ships, Admiral Lee broadcast, implement Pattern 7. Show them what cooperation looks like. The human vessels began rapid position changes, but their movements were perfectly coordinated. Ships that appeared to be retreating suddenly turned and struck at enemy weak points. Vessels that seemed damaged were actually setting traps for pursuing Council forces. Colonel Jun-Ho Park, commanding the Marine forces on New Terra's surface, watched the space battle through his tactical displays. His soldiers wore powered armor that connected directly to the planet's AI networks, making each human fighter equivalent to a squad of traditional troops. "Sir," reported his communications officer, "the Council fleet is trying to break through for orbital bombardment. Admiral Shin's defense platforms are engaging." Admiral Haiwan Shin commanded the orbital defense network from her station high above New Terra. The platforms were small compared to the attacking fleet, but they had one crucial advantage. They were part of the same networked system as every human ship and ground installation. "All platforms," she ordered, "coordinate with Fleet Admiral Lee's maneuvers. We're not just defending the planet, we're part of the fleet." The Council forces found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to predict their every move. When they tried to flank the human positions, defenders appeared exactly where they were needed. When they concentrated their firepower, the humans simply redistributed their forces to counter the attack. Grand Admiral Mordeth watched his tactical displays with growing horror. Despite having overwhelming numerical superiority, his forces were being systematically outmaneuvered and destroyed. "How are they doing this?" he demanded. "Our ships can't coordinate this precisely even with our best communication systems." His science officer, a Vorthak crystal being named Velnoth, had been analyzing the human coordination patterns. "Sir, I believe they're using quantum-entangled AI networks. Every human ship, platform, and soldier is connected through instantaneous communication links. That's theoretically impossible. The power requirements alone would be enormous. Unless," Velnoth said quietly, "they've learned to use quantum entanglement more efficiently than we thought possible." The battle's turning point came when the Council fleet tried their desperate final gambit, a direct assault on New Terra's surface. Hundreds of ships broke through the orbital defenses and began landing troops on the planet, but they found that the planet itself was fighting back. The weather control systems created localized storms over landing zones. Industrial robots converted to combat configurations emerged from every factory and workshop. Even the civilian evacuation tunnels were part of the defensive network, allowing human forces to appear anywhere on the planet within minutes. Colonel Park's Marines, wearing armor that learned from every enemy attack, found themselves fighting more effectively with each engagement. When Council energy weapons proved effective, the armor adapted to reflect that specific frequency. When alien tactics worked initially, the AI networks analyzed them and developed counters within hours. "This is impossible," transmitted Krillian, war leader Skrix, the same commander who had attacked New Busan years earlier. "The humans fight like they share a single mind." "That's exactly what they do," Colonel Park replied over the battlefield communications. "We call it cooperation. You should try it sometime." The final blow came when Admiral Lee's fleet, reinforced by Alliance ships arriving from across the galaxy, surrounded the Council forces. Ships from 43 species, all fighting with the same networked coordination, began systematically destroying the enemy fleet. Grand Admiral Mordeth realized his position was hopeless. 3/4 of his ships were destroyed or disabled. His ground forces were trapped on a planet that fought back against them. For the first time in his career, he was facing complete defeat. "All ships," he transmitted with resignation, "retreat to hyperspace."